When my husband forgot my name, I didn't cry. He was standing in the doorway of our kitchen, holding his car keys, looking right at me. The morning sun was catching the little bits of gray in his hair. He had a puzzled look on his face, like he'd walked into the wrong room. His lips moved, but no sound came out. Then they moved again. He was searching. I saw it. The flicker in his eyes, like a light bulb straining to come on. You, he began, then stopped. You? Are you supposed to be here? For 43 years, I had been Lily. His Lily. Lily who hated peas. Lily who could never keep a houseplant alive. Lily who sang off-key in the car. For 43 years, his voice had wrapped around my name like a warm blanket. And now it was gone. Just gone. And I didn't cry. I just felt a calm, quiet crack open inside my chest. A deep, silent space. I smiled. A small, soft smile. I walked over to him, took the keys gently from his hand, and placed them on the counter. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, I said, my voice steady. And so are you. That was the day the man I loved began to leave me. Not with a dramatic goodbye, not with an argument or a slamming door, but with a slow, quiet fading, like a photograph left in the sun. And my journey, our final journey together, began not with remembering, but with forgetting. My name is Lily, and his name is Thomas. Thomas and Lily. It always sounded like a pair of old, comfortable shoes to me. The kind you slip on and know, without a doubt, that they fit. We met in the spring of 1978. I was a library assistant, lost in the poetry section. He was an engineering student, hopelessly lost, looking for a book on structural design. He asked me for help. I led him to the right aisle, our shoulders almost touching. When he found the book, he didn't look at it. He looked at me. What's your name? He asked.
Lily, I said.
Like the flower, he replied. And then he did the strangest thing.
He blushed.
A big, tall man, blushing right there between the shelves. I knew in that moment. I just knew. Our love wasn't a wildfire. It was a garden. We planted it together. We watered it with morning coffees and shared newspapers. We gave it sun with long Sunday drives, windows down, his hand resting on my knee. We weathered storms, the loss of his father, my difficult pregnancy with our daughter, Sophie, financial worries that kept us up at night.
But the roots grew deep.
Our home was a small, brick house with a green door. We painted it together. Thomas was always meticulous, taping the edges perfectly. I was always impatient, getting paint on my hands, on my cheeks. He'd laugh and wipe it off with his thumb. We built a life in that house. We raised Sophie there. We celebrated promotions there. We grieved lost friends there. We grew old there. The sofa had the indentation of our bodies side by side. The garden had his roses and my messy, overgrown herb patch. Every corner whispered a story. Remember when Sophie took her first steps here? Remember when we hosted that huge Thanksgiving and the turkey was still frozen? Thomas was a quiet man, a man of few words, but deep feelings. He showed his love in actions. In the way he'd fix my reading glasses for the 100th time. In the way he'd bring me a cup of tea without me asking. In the way he'd reach for my hand in the cinema, even during a boring film. His love was my constant. The North Star of my everyday life. For years, our routine was a gentle melody. Wake up. He'd make the coffee, I'd make the toast. He'd read the paper. I'd do the crossword. We'd talk about Sophie, about the news, about nothing at all. The silence between us was never empty. It was full of understanding. I thought we had more time. I thought we had more of this. More quiet evenings. More shared memories. I thought the hardest part of growing old together would be the aches and pains. The slowing down. I never prepared for the silence that comes not from comfort, but from a mind quietly closing its doors. The first sign was so small I brushed it away, like a crumb on the counter. We were playing cards. Gin rummy, our Wednesday night ritual. Thomas stared at his hand for a long time. Too long. It's your turn, love, I said softly. He looked up, confused. What's the game again? I smiled. Gin rummy. We've been playing it for 40 years. He laughed, a short, embarrassed sound.
Right. Of course.
My mind just went blank for a second. That's all it was. A blank second. We all have them, don't we? You walk into a room and forget why. You lose your train of thought. It's nothing. But the blanks became more frequent. He'd pause in the middle of a sentence, his eyes losing their focus. He'd call Sophie by my sister's name. He'd forget where he put his favorite wrench, the one he'd had since he was 20, and get frustrated, turning the garage upside down. Then one Tuesday, he got lost coming home from the grocery store. A route he had driven 10,000 times. He was gone for 2 hours. When he finally pulled into the driveway, he was pale, his hands clenched on the steering wheel. I couldn't remember the turn, he said, his voice shaky. The streets didn't look right. My heart was pounding, but I kept my voice calm. It's okay, Thomas. You're home now. It's okay. We went to the doctor. A series of tests, scans, questions. What day is it? Who is the Prime Minister? Can you draw a clock for me, Thomas? I watched him struggle with the clock, his hand unsteady, the numbers all jumbled on one side. My strong, capable Thomas, who could build a bookshelf from scratch, couldn't draw a simple clock. The diagnosis was mild cognitive impairment, possible early stages of dementia. The words hung in the sterile air of the doctor's office. They felt too big, too medical for my Thomas. We'll manage, I said to him in the car, holding his hand tightly. We always have. And we tried. I made lists. I stuck notes. On the fridge. Tuesday, bin day. Wednesday, card night. Thomas's pills, morning and evening. I bought him a simple mobile phone with just my number on speed dial. I became his memory. But the hardest part wasn't the forgetting of facts. It was the slow change in him. The quiet, gentle man began to get flashes of anger. One evening, I moved his reading chair to vacuum underneath it. When he came in, he stared at the spot where it had been. Where is it? He demanded, his voice tight. I just moved it to clean, darling. It's right here. It doesn't go there, he shouted. A real shout. It startled me, made me step back. His face was red, unfamiliar. It goes by the window. Put it back. Put it back now. I quickly pushed the heavy chair back. He sank into it, glaring out the window, breathing heavily. The anger drained from him as quickly as it came, leaving behind a shell of confusion and shame. Later, he cried. Soft, silent tears I only noticed because his shoulders shook. I'm sorry, Lily, he whispered. I don't know why I did that. It's all right, I whispered back, holding him. It's just a chair. But it wasn't just a chair. It was a piece of his world, out of place. And his world was becoming a fragile, terrifying place. The worst moments were the ones of sheer fear. He'd wake in the middle of the night, bolt upright, and not know where he was. Not know who I was. In the dark, I was a stranger in his bed. He'd scramble away, his eyes wide with panic.
Who are you?
What is this place? Thomas, it's me. It's Lily. This is our bedroom. Our home. It would take minutes, sometimes longer, for the fear to recede. For him to see me again.
To come back to me.
Those nights, after he'd fallen back into a restless sleep, I'd lie awake and stare at the ceiling. And for the first time, I'd let the tears come. Silent, hot tears that soaked my pillow. I was losing him. Piece by piece, memory by memory, I was losing my husband. And then, he forgot my name. The day he forgot my name was the day the rules changed. The doctor used a new word. Alzheimer's. The dementia had a name now. A progression. A map with only one destination. We told Sophie. She lived a few hours away with her family. She came down, her face pale with worry. Mom, you can't do this alone. He needs professional care. You need help. But I was stubborn. This was my vow. In sickness and in health. This was my garden, and I would tend to it until the very last petal fell. I became a nurse, a scheduler, a guard. I hid the car keys. I installed locks on the doors so he wouldn't wander. I bathed him. I dressed him. I fed him. My husband, who had once fixed everything in my world, now needed me to tie his shoes. His words left him slowly. Sentences became phrases. Phrases became single words, then often just sounds and gestures. But his eyes still had moments of stunning clarity. In those moments, he would look at me, and I would see my Thomas, trapped inside. And the look in his eyes was one of profound sadness. He knew. In those fleeting seconds, he knew he was leaving. The real turning point came on a rainy afternoon in October. The house was quiet. Thomas was napping in his chair. I was in the kitchen making soup. The rain tapped softly on the window. It was a peaceful moment. A small, normal moment in our now very abnormal life that I heard a noise from the living room. A thud. I turned off the stove and went in. Thomas was standing by the bookshelf. His old photo albums were scattered on the floor around him. He had one open in his hands. He was staring at a picture, his body trembling. Thomas? What is it, love?
He didn't look at me.
He pointed a shaking finger at the photograph. It was our wedding photo. Young Thomas, in a suit that was too big in the shoulders, beaming. Young Lily, in a simple white dress, laughing, holding a bouquet of daisies. He made a sound, a guttural, aching sound. Then he looked from the photo to me, back to the photo, back to me. His eyes were pools of utter despair. He saw her, the young, vibrant Lily in the picture. And then he saw me, the old, tired woman with gray hair and worried eyes standing before him. The connection his broken mind made was not that they were the same person. The connection it made was one of loss. He thought I was gone. He dropped the album. It landed with a soft slap on the carpet. He looked at me, and a single tear traced a path down his wrinkled cheek.
Where is she?
He whispered, his voice cracked with grief. Where is my Lily? The question hit me with a physical force. It stole the air from my lungs. He was mourning me. I was standing right in front of him, and he was mourning my loss. The love of his life was a memory in a photo album, and I was just a kind stranger taking care of him. All my strength, all my stubborn resolve, crumbled in that instant. The dam broke. I sank to my knees there among the scattered photos of our life. I wrapped my arms around his legs, buried my face against him, and I sobbed. Great, heaving sobs that I had been holding back for months, for years. I cried for him. I cried for me. I cried for the young couple in the picture, who had no idea what this ending would look like. He stood still, confused by my outburst. Then, slowly, hesitantly, he placed a hand on my head. A gentle, comforting pat. The way you would soothe a distressed child, or a grieving stranger. It was the most heartbreaking kindness I have ever known. When my tears were spent, I looked up. He was staring out the window at the rain, his hand still resting on my hair. The moment of clarity had passed. He was gone again, back to his quiet, inner world. I got up. I helped him back to his chair. I tucked a blanket around him. I picked up the photo albums and put them away, high on a shelf. That night, I called Sophie. My voice was raw, hollow. You were right, I said. I can't do this alone anymore. He's looking for me. And I'm right here. But he can't see me. Bringing Thomas to Maplewood Care Home was the hardest day of my life. Harder than the diagnosis. Harder than hearing him forget my name. It felt like a betrayal. Like I was abandoning my post. The garden was dying, and instead of staying with it until the very end, I was walking away. He was confused, of course. He held my hand tightly as we walked down the bright, clean hallway. His room was nice.
Sunny.
I had brought his own quilt, his favorite pillow, a photo of us on the bedside table. I tried to make it feel like home. When it was time for me to leave, the panic set in. His eyes locked on mine, wide and scared. He gripped my hand so hard it hurt. Don't go, he pleaded. Please don't leave me here. I have to, my love, I whispered, my throat so tight I could barely speak. But I will come back. Every single day. I promise. It took 2 kind nurses to gently pry his fingers from mine. I walked out, and I didn't look back. I couldn't. If I had seen his face, I would have turned around and brought him home, and we would have lost ourselves completely. The first week, I was lost. The house was a museum of silence. Every empty chair screamed at me. I didn't know what to do with my hands, my time, my worry. I had spent so long being his caretaker that I had forgotten how to just be Lily. But I kept my promise. I went to Maplewood every single day. And something shifted.
Slowly.
Painfully. I was no longer his nurse. I was just his visitor. His Lily. I would sit with him for hours. Sometimes he knew me. Most times he didn't. We didn't talk much. We'd listen to old music, the Beatles, Frank Sinatra. I'd hold his hand. I'd read the newspaper aloud. I'd bring him small cups of ice cream, which he loved. The pressure was gone. The constant, exhausting vigilance. The fear of him wandering, of him hurting himself, of the next moment of anger. That weight was shared now by the professionals at Maplewood. The weight I carried was just the weight of love. Pure, simple, and sad. One spring day, I wheeled him into the garden. The sun was warm. The flowers were blooming. He was quiet, looking at a bird bath. I was just sitting beside him, soaking in the sun, thinking of nothing and everything. Then I felt it, his hand moving in mine, not just resting but holding. I looked down. His thin, papery skin, his familiar knuckles. He was giving my hand a gentle squeeze. I looked at his face. He was still watching the birds. But then he turned his head.
Slowly.
He looked at me. Really looked at me. His eyes were clear, blue, and deep. He didn't smile. But there was a recognition there. A connection that went beyond names, beyond memories. He lifted our joined hands. He looked at them, nestled together. Then he brought my hand to his lips and pressed a soft, dry kiss to the back of it. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. In that simple, wordless gesture, he said everything. He said thank you. He said I know you. He said I love you. It wasn't the love of our youth, full of passion and promises. It wasn't the love of our middle years, built on partnership and routine. This was a different love. A final, distilled love. A love that existed in the silence, in the touch, in the unwavering act of showing up. He faded again a moment later. The clarity passed. He went back to watching the birds. But I sat there, his kiss still burning on my hand, and I finally understood. I had been grieving for the Thomas who remembered. The Thomas who shared jokes and memories and plans. I thought that man was gone, lost to the disease. But he wasn't entirely gone. The love we built, the garden we tended for 43 years, that hadn't been erased. It was the foundation of everything. It was the reason he felt safe with me, even when he didn't know my name. It was the reason for that kiss. My husband was leaving, but the love wasn't. The love was the last thing to go. And maybe it never goes at all. Thomas passed away peacefully in his sleep at Maplewood, a year after that day in the garden. I was there holding his hand. His breathing just slowed and then stopped. It was quiet. It was gentle, just like him. After he was gone, people would say to me, "I'm so sorry for your loss." And I would thank them. But in my heart, I had already done my grieving. I had grieved for him while he was still here. The long goodbye. Now, I grieve for myself. For the empty side of the bed. For the silence at the breakfast table. I miss him. Every day I miss him. But I am not bitter. I am not angry. When you love someone through the end, through the forgetting, you learn a profound lesson. Love is not a memory. It's not a name spoken in recognition. It is an action. A choice you make every single day. It is showing up. It is holding a hand. It is wiping a tear. It is speaking gently, even when you are not understood. It is the quiet, stubborn refusal to let go of someone, even when they have already begun to let go of you. Our story didn't have the ending I pictured. There was no final, romantic conversation. No last shared secret. It ended with silence and a kiss on the hand. But it was our ending. It was real. It was messy and heartbreaking and beautiful in its own terrible way. I still live in our house with a green door. I tend his roses. I sit in his chair by the window sometimes. And I feel a strange peace. He forgot my name, but in the end, he remembered my love. And I will carry his and the memory of that final, quiet kiss for all the days I have left. Love doesn't die with the memory. It lives in the touch. It lives in the heart that remembers how to care, long after the mind has forgotten why. And that is enough.